This is Sleeping in Trees, the audiobook, Chapter 39, Roundabout. I held my older brother Ding in high esteem and resented him at the same time. 4 years my elder, he was always better at everything I wanted to do, and got to do it before I did. It's the frustrating collision of the calendar with the plodding timeline of growing up that all younger siblings have to deal with. Whether it was the new mini bike when I had a foot scooter, or the new Kawasaki motorcycle just as I graduated to a mini bike, or simply always being able to run a little faster or jump a bit higher, I felt Ding always had it a little better. I was forever trying to catch up, but never could. Then he got his first car. It was his 16th birthday, and he and Dad had been foraging among the used car lots of South Miami to find his first set of wheels. In the 1960s, a used car was still called a used car. It was not a long time before ever more sophisticated and creative marketeers would modify the modern sales landscape by describing the same things in a more appealing way. Used became previously owned. A dark red Oldsmobile became a burnt umber Oldsmobile. Simple blue was suddenly Caribbean blue. While I was still spinning around on my mini bike, once again Ding was out in front. He'd be able to head out on Alligator Alley and drive all the way to Naples if he pleased. I didn't dare roam more than a few blocks. My mini bike was an unlicensed motor vehicle. It couldn't be licensed because it didn't meet certain basic safety standards, but was still considered a motor vehicle, which had to be licensed to operate on public roads. It was a paradox, created by legislators out of step with product development. In the end, a mini bike was just a tiny motorized scooter invented by lawnmower companies in the 1950s with excess manufacturing capacity, trying to glom on to the rapidly growing interest in motorcycles that swept America thanks to Mr. Soichiro Honda. During the mini bike phase, Lobster was repeatedly accosted and followed home by an officer named Pick. Over the years, Officer Pick arrived at our home on a regular basis. He would slowly trail Lobster into the driveway. Soon, Dad could be seen sheepishly standing next to the dark green and white patrol car, while the diligent and disciplined Officer Pick, for the umpteenth time, recited the statutes that banned underaged, unlicensed Lobster from racing around the public roads on his menacing machine. Unlike Ding and me, Lobster insisted on repeatedly straying way outside the boundaries while exploring the outer regions of neighborhoods far away. The more miles he put under the small lawnmower tires, the greater the odds that Officer Pick would spot him on his local patrol. This cat-and-mouse charade only ended when Lobster turned 16 and he graduated to larger vehicles, namely my mother's SS 396 Chevy Camaro, shot in metallic gold with a black vinyl top and black alloy Krager mags. Dad and Ding's car search ended one Saturday afternoon when they spotted a sky blue Ford Custom 500 in cherry condition. I had never seen or even heard of this model and could understand why. A more bland vehicle never rolled along any pavement. It was dull, slow, and safe, and would never, ever inspire a 16-year-old to act out in any irresponsible way. Ever. Dad knew what he was doing. When he embarked on what became our final home edition, he added a spur of a driveway that circled around behind the tall hibiscus hedge so one could park in either the carport at the side of the house or the turnaround next to it. That is where he would park his Lincoln. It was a straight shot right into his shop, and because he was usually coming back from the hardware store or a lumber yard, it was convenient. Ding would usually park his previously owned Custom 500 at the front door, midway in the circular section of the driveway in the front of the house. It wound around a large landscaped island as it exited onto Vista Lane. Parking in front of the garage was to be avoided, given the constant flow of rowdy young boys in the area. About a week after Ding's birthday, I sat at the kitchen counter while Dad and he discussed their coincidental needs to head out. Dad was off to the bank to deposit a check, and Ding was headed to a friend's house to collect him so they could drive over to the local Burger King and get a Whopper. With keys in hand, they said goodbye and shuffled off in opposite directions. Dad out through the shop and into the carport, and Ding out through the front door. I sat at the kitchen counter thinking about what I might do next. It was quiet. I hopped down from the stool and trotted to the front door. As I turned the knob and stepped out onto the porch, I looked up just in time to see the most ridiculous and comical event unfold in slow motion. As Ding swung left around the landscaped island in his recently waxed Custom 500, I just caught a glimpse of the rear of Dad's Lincoln disappearing around the opposite side. With a loud crunch and a booming crash, Dad T-boned Ding right in front of the house while they both tried to exit the driveway at the same time. Dad was on autopilot, having made this exit hundreds of times. He never looked left before because he never needed to, but that was before there were other cars. His arthritic neck also hindered his peripheral view. Ding could not see around the landscaped island with its thick tropical foliage, and by the time he spotted Dad, it was too late. He'd already been skewered. I rushed over to survey the damage. At 10 miles an hour, no one could be killed, just shaken and definitely pissed off. A heated debate ensued over who was in the wrong. Dad had crashed into Ding, but was he somehow cut off? They argued a bit about starboard and port right-of-way, and both accused the other of not paying attention and driving way too fast in the first place. No true blame was ever assigned. They settled the matter out of court. Ding's Custom 500 had taken a solid Lincoln-sized hit to the midsection and would need to be taken straight away to the local body shop, Johnny and Mac by the railroad track, the world's largest, and that's a fact. Next week after school, I noticed that a gardener was on the scene, hard at work, thinning out the shrubs and pruning the branches of the small tree in the landscaped island. The next tale makes one wonder, who were the adults and who were the kids? Up next is Chapter 40, and it's called Going Up?